So if you want to contribute to open source, I think open source contributions come in many flavors. I feel like there's a misconception and a fear among people who want to get into open source that you have to only contribute like sophisticated source code and pull requests to contribute to open source. And that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, open source contributions are just that, contributions. You could literally contribute like teaching if you do a workshop or a hackathon talk mentorship about some open source project. Or on GitHub, you could open issues to contribute feedback. Like literally any contribution, education, feedback, whatever counts as an open source contribution. Some people have come to me and said, "Oh, but I'm just writing docs. I'm not writing code. Is that an open source contribution?" Yes. In fact, what I want to do in this video is walk through some of my open source contributions, which you'll see are not even very sophisticated source code, and kind of show you how to get into open source. In fact, at the end of the video, we'll have actual practical tips that can help you get into open source and continue your career and then enrich your career from there. So stick around for that. But for now, let's get into it. I want to show you one of my earlier open source contributions. It was to a repo called Facebook/Jest, the test runner. And I literally just updated debugging documentation. I fixed an existing issue. So if you click here, you'll see that I simply updated the docs. The test plan is read the docs. The changes are not that much. I literally change very little. From here, it's interesting because some of you might be thinking, okay, well, is that even a contribution? Yeah, it is. In fact, let me show you what happened after I opened the pull request. I get a review from Simon B, who says, node inspect is not the same, blah, blah. He gives me really valuable feedback. That's the point. I take this feedback and iterate, and I say, sure, I'm on it. And eventually I say, thanks for the feedback, updated. From here, Christoph, the then engineering manager on Jest at the time, says, thanks for the comprehensive updates to the documentation, and merged it. Now, that's pretty nice. After this, I don't know if this was related or not, but after this, Christoph got in touch and helped me get an interview at Facebook where I could have gotten the job. All right, so that's kind of how the open source contribution led to it. Now, I'm not saying contribute to open source with some ulterior motive of getting a job. I don't think that's healthy, but that's what can come from open source contributions, even docs contributions. Keep in mind, all contributions are contributions. Or how about this? Open source contributions can literally just be exploration and code, but that code you don't expect to ever be merged into a project. It can literally just be like, I don't know, I have an idea, I want to try something, let's see. I did this recently with Replay. Some of you may know about Replay, some of you may not. It's a time-traveling browser that you can use to like reproduce bugs and inspect and debug really well. Let me show you a quick demo of that and then show you my pull request. So what I did was I had this replay here, and it looks like a video, but it's not. Basically, it's this bug where like the counter, like you click increment a few times, right, and nothing happens. There's a comment here that says nothing happens. And so what I want to do is like go to the code. So I'm going to come here and click on this jump to code in the click event. And this is literally the code that is doing this, right? And I can even like, if I want to inspect exactly this element here. So it's not a video, it's like actual browser stuff. So I can inspect this and so on. But what I really want to do is I want to add a print statement here, like a console log, and we say log current count 0, cool. But maybe this is a foreign code base and I don't understand. And this is kind of where I get into my pull request. So I've been using this for a while to debug, and I was like working on code bases that I didn't fully understand. So I thought, how cool would it be if like something could explain the code to me at this point that I don't understand. So this is my pull request. I added a little explain button. This is new. And I click it. It explains. It literally, here a comment appears. The line of code defines a button with an on-click event that increments the count by calling increment blah blah blah. It's from this package. Here's how we got here. We're using useState from the React library, and at the very end it says potential bugs that may be lurking in this code. This is a full like textual response to help me understand this code. Now, I made this just because I wanted to explore with some AI, whatever. I made this, I opened a pull request. Here, let's look at the pull request. So we come here. So my pull request, I'm like, this is a proof of concept and just an experiment. I do not expect it to be merged. Although if you want to, that's fine. And I talk about some of the ways it's not really finished. For example, the comment is posted as me instead of some machine user and so on. I do this It's an open source contribution. It's not merged. I don't expect it to be merged. But what happened next? There's a conversation from John, the designer, who's like, dude, this is amazing. I'm going to reiterate what I said in Discord. There's a conversation from Mark Erickson, who says there's a cache you can use. And I'm getting a lot of this like constructive feedback that is helping me on my open source journey. Now, even if this pull request isn't merged, they're giving me advice and helping me grow as an engineer in this code base, but also in other code bases. We just learn together. And that is the value of open source for people and for companies. Both sides learn, both sides benefit. Even if your code is never merged, even if it's just docs, even if it's a talk, even if it's a workshop, open source contributions are contributions that are beneficial all around. Okay. Now, you might be thinking, that's amazing. How do I get into open source? I have some tips for you. There's a company called OpenSauced. I love them and I highly recommend. They have a great brand here. Let's look at their website, opensauced.pizza. And they're just an open source company, and they have a tool called Insights, which will show you kind of interesting insights that there's this many contributors and so on in JavaScript. But if you come over here to the repositories, this is insights.opensauce.com, by the way, insights.opensauce.pizza, my bad. What you'll see is trending repositories within the last 7 days or 30 days or 3 months, and you can see kind of the activity here. So I see that Sequelize is pretty active. So what I'm going to do is check out Sequelize, check out the issues, look for maybe label good first issue. Okay, here's one. Remove the include option for model.create. And what I can see is this only creates a player, not a team. This creates a player and associate, okay? And there's an issue where this isn't needed anymore, so we can remove it. What I'm motivated to do here is clone the repo, try to do something, open a draft pull request. Maybe it's not even good, but see how it goes. Maybe a conversation ensues, maybe I become part of the team, maybe I contribute, maybe I learn, maybe I grow. We don't know until we try. So that's, I think, the best way. That's how I would get into open source today, is to use insights.opensauce.pizza. One word of caution, I've spoken to a lot of people who have had negative interactions with open source maintainers, as opposed to what I've showed earlier with mine. That's valid. I also have had horrible interactions where open source maintainers are just like, no, I don't want your stuff. Go away, you junior developer, this kind of thing. I want you to hear this very clearly. There's issues there, but that's not your issue. Especially if you're trying to get into open source, it's almost never your issue. There's issues with open source is not nearly as funded, and because of that, maintainers do a lot of work for free and end up getting close to burnout and developing a lot of mental health issues. There's a lot of things that would cause maintainers to be mean to you that are not directly related to you. You are not the problem. It's just systemic, and there's work being done to help fund open source and make this easier, but do not let that deter you from getting into open source and really adding tons and tons of value to your career. That's all I have for you. I hope you're able to, if you want to get into open source, you can. If you're already in open source, what do you think? Is this accurate? Is this something you would tell other people? Let me know. Leave a comment or at me on Twitter. But for now, that's been it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.